Hello, everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm joined by some Irish hammers ahead of our game against the Island on Thursday. I'm excited. Darren, Ronan, how are we doing, guys?
Not the bad, Corey. How are you?
Good, Corey.
I'm good, mate. Listen, look, West Ham sneaked that win in the end, so I guess we're all relieved after that because that was nail-biting stuff, lads, wasn't it? I mean, at one point I thought typical West Ham, it's going to be a draw against a poor Fulham side.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great to see them win when playing bad.
Yeah, and not as fluid as recent games, but we need to win these games against the teams around us. So 3 points, and now we march.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed, lads. I mean, now we move into the international break. I saw this fixture come up a few weeks ago, and I thought, God, I think I know some people would like to get on to preview this game. So, I'm looking forward to it, lads. And I mean, obviously, you would have been disappointed with going out of the Euros. I mean, how has that affected your perspective on Ireland as a team? Do you look at it a bit as a building job, or are you still disappointed that you don't feel maybe that you're going anywhere soon?
Oh yeah, disappointed because we should, Slovakia, we should have been able to beat, and to go out on penalties was very disappointing. But the other side of that is it was a bonus nearly to get that playoff because we've had to rebuild. We've hung on to players too long. And we've a young side in, and new manager coming in. Took over from Mick McCarthy, and he only got the playoff and two Nations League games before that. So, most managers get a run of friendlies. Like Martin O'Neill got 8 friendlies before he had to play a competitive game before. So, he's come in. He's an inexperienced manager. The only team you would know he was Dunfermline. He was manager of Dunfermline, and then he took Dundalk in Ireland to, which was great. It was amazing what he's done, and he's left a great legacy there in Dundalk. And they're actually in the Europa League again this year, the group. And that was him building that up. So it's actually exciting while it's disappointing. We have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'd echo the words too. Actually, on the night against Slovakia, we were the better team. We had the better chances. Corey had a great chance later on to win it for us. I'd say he closed his eyes and took the shot. He's literally 6 yards out, and it was somehow cleared off the line. But Stephen has really changed the way we're trying to play the game. The ball is on the floor a bit more. It's not just launching it and open for knock-ons. And going forward, he's introduced a nice little mix of players. You still have the likes of Coleman there as well. He's going to be very important for us. Even at this age, he's so inspirational to the team. He's a great captain. He's a great talker. He's a great leader. And hopefully he can bring on the young lads as well. But Thursday night now, it'll be a daunting prospect to play England in Wembley. But as Darren stated, it's something to look forward to. And we're undefeated against England in the last 7 games. So 6 of them have been drawn. But of course, the one that sticks out is 1988. I was only 12, but it's still a great memory to have when we beat England in the Euros.
Yeah, do you know what? I was doing my homework on watching Ireland, and I actually expected there to be a kind of long ball. I've sort of got memories of Shane Long scoring against Germany, and I was like, I know what you're about. But in fairness, there was some fairly attractive stuff in there, pushing midfielders on, and I guess you kind of don't have that. I mean, you have got Shane Long, but there's no that kind of standout striker, but he's still creating chances. So
he's not in the squad even. He that's the change now. The guard that he's been left out, and we've got Conley, Ida, and O'Dowda now that will probably play up front. It's nice football. He has a real philosophy of playing football on the ground, and he's done it all the way through, even at tough times. And I think on Thursday it's going to be really interesting because if he sticks to his philosophy of playing football on the ground, we should really have 2 good attacking teams playing each other.
I feel like that.
and the old Ireland, I'm going back maybe the last 2 or 3 managers before this, would have had 5 in the midfield, 1 up front, and it would be a bust. He buses all the way at the back. He won't do that. He will be afraid to lose heavily, because it's not good for morale and it's not good for him, new manager. But I just think his philosophy is, we stick to what we're doing and just go for it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, Corey. In the game so far, he's played a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. So I'm not too sure. I'd probably go with a 4-2-3-1 And Thursday evening, it's hard to know. In that case, I'm thinking he might go Connolly up top on his own. Aaron from Brighton, with Horahan and Malumphey as the 2, and I'm thinking maybe Hendrick, McCarthy, and Brady as the 3. And Coleman right full, Carty left full, and you've got Duffy, who's up at Celtic at the moment, Egan centre backs, and of course our own Darren Randolph in goal. But be interesting to see how he does sit out the team on Thursday evening to cope with an attacking England team.
Well, I mean, look, as you say, attacking England team, we have played about 7 defenders in probably the past 2 or 3 games, it's such a weird thing because I think Southgate, particularly in the Nations League last time round, when we beat Spain, we played a 4-3-3. We had Sterling in the side, we had Pace, Kane as well. We were looking really good. There's some really attractive stuff, and he's reverted to kind of a back 3 now. He's got sort of wing backs in there, and it's the midfield 2 for me for England that. We can't really affect the game. And listen, we can't dig out Declan Rice because he's a phenomenal defensive midfielder. But sometimes when you're playing Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips in there, albeit Calvin won't be playing on Thursday, that transition isn't there as much. And I think England have suffered from that in an attacking sense. So for me, as an England fan, I'm looking at it thinking it's an opportunity. Just let's be a bit more pressing. We did it against Belgium. I hope it's not one of these situations where he misreads it and think Ireland are going to sit back because from what I've seen. It's such an odd formation. It's such an odd tactic because you've got the 4-2-3-1, and then you think, he's only got 1 striker, but then you push those attacking midfielders up, and all of a sudden you've got 3-4 in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what he's looking for from the likes of O'Dowda, and if Connolly goes up top, Ida from Norwich. I mean, there's pace there, and that's exactly it. We hope he thinks we're going to do the long ball up, but. I'm sure he'll have his homework done. I mean, our best chance of scoring is still going to probably be Shane Duffy.
It's a massive promise effort. We've only this is I think this is Kenny's 6th game in charge. We've only got 1 goal, and that was in our first game against Bulgaria away in the Nations League, and that was a Duffy header in injury time. So we really are lacking firepower at the moment. And the two guys who we missed from the Slovakia game, the playoff for the Euros, Ida and Connolly, they were the 2 guys who had the misfortune to sit beside the FA official and were out of the game because of the COVID situation. Like we could have done with them that night in Slovakia, So I think Connolly is really impressed, Darren, hasn't he, in the few games for Ireland? He has, hasn't he? He's really been very impressive. Like he's very busy up top. Now whether he can make another step up and in Wembley on Thursday remains to be seen, but I'd be hopeful that we'll start scoring sooner rather than later, So as opposed to relying on a set piece or a goal from open play, now be more than welcome at this stage,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a few players there that always a big game as well, and there's nothing better than going to Wembley. I know the crowd and all isn't there, but there's nothing better than going to Wembley and showing up.
Exactly.
Sorry, mate, you guys.
No, exactly. Like I'm thinking back to the 2016 when we were in the Euros, and our 2 standout players were Hendrick and Brady, and everyone thought like they'd kick on, that they'd end up at a top 6 club in the Premier League, but their career has stalled somewhat. I know Brady's had some bad injuries, but again, Hendrick's now with Newcastle and making an impact. He played very well that night against us in the London Stadium, but like those 2 guys, we were heavily reliant upon in the middle of the park. So it's time for them now to become seasoned internationals and just show us what they can do at that level.
Yeah, I really rate Brady, if I'm honest. Every time I've seen him, I think earlier in the season for Burnley as well, because he has had problems with injuries, but he did come into the side and he's still a creative presence. And I think he did miss a chance in one of Ireland's games where I thought, you just expecting with that left foot to bend it in, but. I think it could be difficult for you, if I'm honest. It's just because of the way you play, and if you're focused either on the deliveries into the box or even with the midfield runners, if England set up with that kind of that 3-5-2 or sit quite deep, it is really difficult to break down, particularly from the middle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and he'll obviously give this game good detail. With 2 important Nations League games following this game, so. It might be an opportunity to blood a bit of fresh legs as well. So, I hope he does well because he's held in high esteem over in Ireland, Kenny. And a lot of people were raised eyebrows when he got the job, but it's time for him to to fulfil the role, and I look forward to him taking us to maybe the World Cup in Qatar. Who knows?
God, yeah, that'll come round quick. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. That was a surprising thing. We've kind of touched on it. Looking back at the results, I was thinking, God, Ireland haven't scored a lot. And then I watched the highlights and was like, actually, the amount of chances you created, you probably should have scored even against Wales. I thought at times you were dominant. It must be quite frustrating. Or are you very much patient? You know that this side's moving towards something, and you think at one point it will click. Hopefully not against England.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's exactly it. We know they're moving. It's slow at the moment, but they're going the right way. And if we have to forego, we're unlucky against Slovakia, but if we have to go forego one tournament to try and get it right, I think that's okay, because we've often gone into tournaments and hung on to players after it out of sentiment or whatever. Whereas this is a new team coming in. I don't think he'll play Brady. I kind of hope he doesn't play Brady. I'd probably disagree with you there, because I just think he has too many bad games in him more than good games, and my patience with him would be getting slow. Hendrick has been really good under Kenny, because he's one player that a lot of people are losing faith in under McCarthy and O'Neill, but I think under Stephen Kenny he's been given a freedom that you find him like a bit like the Newcastle goal against us. You actually finding Hendricks more up at the in the opposing box, where he was more sitting back, and he runs all day for you, but you need a little bit more than just running.
Yeah, and I think Hendricks actually one of the guys that's played every minute under Kenny as well. Like in all those games that have come back to back, like he seemed to be the main focus in midfield, and he seems to work around him. James McCarthy, who came back before Kenny, he got a bad injury in the first game and hasn't featured since, but he's in the squad, and hopefully he'll get some minutes now on Thursday evening, because he seems to be doing well for Palace. He's back in the first team there on a regular basis, so hopefully him and Hendrick can knit well together there on Thursday evening.
Yeah, Hendrick is a problem, like you've touched on, particularly Newcastle. He does press high, like he does. He pushes, and I guess at Burnley and probably Ireland in the past, he really hasn't had that kind of responsibility. Like you've said as well, I think Connolly's a really good player. Every time I've seen him for Brighton, particularly sort of coming off that left, he's got the pace to get in behind. And I think maybe if you're looking at trying to exploit England or get England to almost press on Ireland, you need those pacey players that can push and get in behind. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm interested to see how you line up.
And of course, Bodek, who had a great game against Slovakia, he's retired. Which was a surprise announcement there last week as well. So, and against Slovakia, he kind of drifted out from centre forward. He kind of played the number 10 role for a while, and he was very impressive in the game. So, we don't have the player for the ilk of England, sadly. But what we do get from the Ireland team is get 100% commitment when they put on that green jersey. So. That's all you can hope for on Thursday evening, and just pray that things fall away on the night. But do you think?
Do you think you'll push the fullbacks up, because you have got very good fullbacks? I know Stevens is injured, but
well, Doherty will come in for Stevens, and I'm not sure how close they'll get over the halfway line. To be honest with you, I think he'd be just a little bit cautious, because looking at that, whatever three starts for England are the pace and everything else. Egan and Duffy aren't going to be the quickest either, so I would imagine Coleman and Doherty will start, and they'll venture, but it won't be regular like they have been, I don't think. But O'Dowda on the wing, hopefully he has a bit of pace and a bit of skill, so he could kind of I don't know whether he'll fall back into make it a forward across the middle, and then kind of give him a bit of freedom just to move on then when we have the ball.
Do you think?
I'd love to see.
Do you think Darren will go O'Dowda ahead of Callum Robinson?
I think he.
Okay. He likes O'Dowda.
I think he likes him. I think he sees something in him that he just like we all look at managers, even David Moyes, and sometimes you wonder what they're seeing in players that we don't see when they pick them. And the same with international. I mean, a little bit like what we were saying earlier, like Jadon Sancho. You're looking at England teams. You're looking at England teams, and even though the players are excellent, you're still wondering how he's not in that team. And it's just like, and Grealish as well. Like managers just seem to take a shine to certain players, and they go with that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, mate. I've got to be honest. For me, Sancho is one of the best players in Europe. On his day for Dortmund, he's unbelievable, and I think it is because we don't seem as sort of pace driven. Like we're not as a team as we used to be with a 4-3-3. It's very easy just to get it to the wings, and what we've done now is try and create a little bit of a solid defensive base. But then sometimes you have players like Rashford who, for me, tends to do well against teams that press you. Against teams that sit deep against Rashford, you can't find the space, you can't get in behind. It might be the same for Sancho, and I think Southgate's kind of opted for a Mason Mount because of the work rate and because it depends on the game, doesn't it? It depends. If we've got to sit deep, then I can understand it. But against teams we should be imposing ourselves on, to put players in certain positions for work rate, a bit like we do with Fornals on the left hand side, just doesn't work.
Yeah. Would Sancho have a better chance of starting if he played in the Premier League?
Mate, honestly, I've got no idea. I mean, the Southgate selection process is kind of dubious, isn't it, really? For me, looking at Ireland, I think Foden's the perfect player to start, if I'm honest. Foden or Grealish in that 10 role. I know Grealish plays off the left, but as a 10, he'd be unbelievable. And sometimes when you watch Ireland, with a 4-2-3-1, you think you've kind of got two sitting midfielders, but when you go forward, you can kind of get exploited. So I'll be looking at that 10 thinking, get someone in there, a bit of pace. He'd probably put Mount in there. If he's clever, Mount would be the player that I'd put in there just to press and try and link up with the players up front.
Yeah. It'd be something else if he did start Grealish and Rice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We were discussing this before we came on, wasn't it? It was like...
Don't mention the war.
No, the thing... Look, I mean, those two players, I guess, when they were playing for Ireland, no one could have really conceived that they would be as good of players as they have become. Now they are almost... I mean, I don't understand why Grealish doesn't start for England, but Rice certainly does start. I think, like we've said, we could see Grealish. I think we will see Grealish because he's too good a player, particularly on the form in the Premier League, not to get a run out for England. And he's unbelievable with the ball. Might be one of the most natural dribblers I've seen in the Premier League for a long time.
Yeah. He definitely has something, and it's probably the perfect game for him to come in, nothing at stake. And but as you say though, I mean, everyone knows what he can do. So he shouldn't really be going in there to try and prove anything or anyone. But it seems that way every time he comes on the pitch for England, doesn't it? That he's trying to, make a claim for a place where really you're imagining he should be in there. Definitely. I think I have a feeling he'll rest Rice or bench him because of the amount of games that he's played. Because he's played in every game in the Premier League. Now I know we don't have the Europa games or anything, and the likes of Kane and that might just get a rest. Because Belgium was obviously a bigger game, and England's second.
It's a huge game. It's a huge game. That side is unbelievable. Look at De Bruyne and Lukaku. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. That's kind of the game that you'll say whatever 11 starts for Southgate. If that goes well, that's probably going to be his 11 that starts in the Euros next year because he doesn't change too much once things are going well. So I'd be thinking whoever gets the 11 that start against Belgium, regardless of who you are, Sancho, Grealish, whoever.
It does worry me a little bit with Southgate because when we have these games, we'll have a game like Belgium and a game like Ireland where the Ireland game he should win, but then he'll rest players. We'll probably see Cody come in, who I think for me should stake a claim for starting for England, and then they perform well. And they just never get a chance.
Like Cody's played very well for England in any game I watched. He's really applied himself very well, so I'd be starting him,
And then you have Maguire, like he persists with Harry Maguire regardless of how he's playing. I mean, if I was Stephen Kenny, I'd definitely be saying to Connolly, get stuck in there and have a go and see can you because his confidence is down and you rattle him and you could make something.
But the thing is, Southgate knows that because that's why he plays Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson in front of back three. Because there's no real way an England team with the quality we've got should be playing 3 centre backs and 2 holding midfielders. That shouldn't really be a thing at all. And yet it is. So
if Rice doesn't start against Ireland, who slots in there, Corey?
Well, Phillips is out, isn't he?
Phillips is out. Yeah, that's right. I mean,
Henderson definitely will if Rice doesn't. Really?
I'm not quite sure. I think he rested Rice against Wales from memory. So I mean, I think Ward-Prowse is going to get in. I think Ward-Prowse is in the side. He's done really well for Southampton. So I'd expect him to start. I think you could see a Henderson or a Rice start, if I'm honest, because of the.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many options in that kind of sitting midfield role unless you push Dyer in there, which obviously I wouldn't prefer at all. Because I think against Connolly it could be a nightmare.
We'd be happy with that, just to say.
Yeah, Dyer and Maguire centre back. Oh God, I'd look forward to playing top myself.
But this is what I mean. It's easy to look on. This is why, as a preview, I never look on paper because there are some quality players, but with your system, the pace you've got and the overloads in the box, you've seen it happen with Maguire. He got sent off against Denmark for a poor touch. A little bit of pressure on him. Yeah, he might fold.
But it's one to look forward to because before Kenny had Mick and. Mick is doing co-commentary duty with Sky Sports at the moment, and I find it bizarre. Like he's commentating on a team he just recently managed, and all he's talking about was getting balls into the box, crosses into the box. But Kenny is his own style. He wants to get it down. He wants to play it through the lines, and while it's aesthetically pleasing on the eye, we're sadly lacking in that final third. And what we give to have someone like Robbie Keane back in our team again, we didn't appreciate him. Darren, I don't think when we had him, so
he's unbelievable, wasn't he?
He was incredible, you know what I mean. So to have anyone of his status or coming through in the next few years, we'd be absolutely chuffed to bits because I think we do have backup players to supply the forward line. It's just it's going to happen in the final third for us, and please God, it's going to happen sooner rather than later, because with this Nations League, we need to get points on the board. It's been a poor enough start. If we don't get the ranking points up, we're going to find ourselves down on a lower ranking for the World Cup draw, and then that will make our task so difficult to get to the World Cup in 2022. Yeah.
We play Bulgaria in 2 games time, and that game is whoever wins that finishes third in the group, and you need to finish third to actually be second seed in the World Cup draw. If we lose against Bulgaria, we're going to be third seed, which has happened to us so often, and we don't get lucky with the draw. So we really need to beat Bulgaria. But a win on Thursday night might just help the morale as well. You never know.
Yeah, and I know people were saying that we shouldn't have taken on the game because it's likely that we'd lose and the ranking points will go against us. But I think it's only 1 or 2 ranking points for friendly as opposed to. More ranking points kind of available for competitive fixtures. So and
if you grind out a draw, which look, even Denmark, the last game against Denmark, if that England turns up, who knows what happens.
It's interesting to hear you lads talk about rankings because I've never honestly thought about because they just end up at the top of the group. But it does kind of work against us though because we end up getting to the World Cup and then we just panic, against teams we should be beating.
Yeah, so, it's a big thing for us every qualifying campaign. You're where you finish in the group. I mean, taking out the top 8 in the world for World Cup, or top 8 or 6 in Euros. Everyone else is fighting for second place, usually in the groups, because it means playoffs or high ranking for the next draw as well. So it is like Scots and Welsh should be the same.
Yeah, but the day of us qualifying automatically now for Euros or World Cup are gone. Sadly, So we had some great times in the 80s and 90s qualifying for World Cups, and let's be honest, Darren, as you, we weren't a soccer nation. When I was growing up, it's all, and then when Jack Charlton came in and the ball started rolling, everyone got, he got a great team together, and he had the Euros in '88, you had the World Cup in '90, you had USA again in '94, we're in Saipan in 2002, but it's just tapered off sadly, and hopefully now we can get back to them days sooner rather than later. But
I think we always fight above our weight as well. We still have, we were in Poland and we in 2012 and France 2016.
That's right.
So it's not too bad. I don't really. Well, I hope we qualify for everything. But I've travelled around the world. I've travelled around the world seeing them. But I won't be going to the likes of Qatar, that's for sure.
Normally when the World Cup is absolutely in these far-flung places, we qualify like Japan, and where it costs a lot of money to get to these places. But it'll be bizarre. The World Cup in Qatar, obviously, it's been in December, and schedule changing for the Premier League and that, you know. But look, we hope for a bright future in green. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know your opinion on this because you know sometimes with England we have these great players, but they just never work together. With you, is it very much like you'd rather see Ireland maybe grind out results and get to these major tournaments, or do you just want to see good football? Because it is different from club level, isn't it? Because you're not seeing them week in, week out.
Yeah.
I with Ireland, I would probably
tough one. Thanks, Corey.
Sorry about that.
It's a tough one, but I'm thinking back to the tournaments that I've travelled to and had such a great time, regardless of what happened on the pitch. I'm thinking qualify for the tournament and give us all a lift, because unlike yourselves, like you said, you just expect to qualify and finish top of the group. We get a big win, and it's amazing, like what it does to this country, because we're not used to them. Like, when Jack Charlton came in, we were in the worst recession in history, and they put it down to him coming in and qualifying for the Euros, that the whole country turned around and actually became one of the better countries in Europe at the time, financially and that. So I would take playing not good football and qualifying.
I'd have to go. No, I haven't been like Darren. Like I would go to the occasional match up in the Aviva, right? But I've never been to a major tournament, just watching it on television. But like, look at the Irish fans at all the major tournaments. They're lauded by everyone. Like, you know what I mean? There's never any bother with them, and everyone wants to have Irish fans at the tournament because wherever they're based, it just brings a sense of good fun and good camaraderie amongst the locals and amongst fellow fans that are there as well. But like Darren, we want to be competing at major tournaments, and like as you allude to, with England, it's never an issue because the quality, the depth of quality is always there. It's just a case of having the right manager knitting the team together to perform at the highest level when it's required to do so. Like you look at the World Cup, the game against Croatia, 1-up.
Don't even
go there. No, but look, there used to be this Kane squares that ball to Sterling. 2-0, the game could be over, and you're in a World Cup final, and anything can happen in the World Cup final. So, we look on with envy, but when we're there, we'll always give of our all in the Irish jersey, and please God, we'll be there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but I do want to go and compete at some level and not just be glorious losers. I'd rather have the worst fans in the world and the best team in the world.
Yeah, you know what? It's tough. Yeah. It's so tough with England because it's like we are at that level where you're almost too good to not qualify. But then when you get to tournaments, I know I've been sort of lucky with the players that I've seen. But listen, some of the tournaments I've seen, we didn't qualify for Euro 2008. Went out to Iceland in 2016. These are teams we should be beating easily. And even though Southgate's come in, there is always an argument amongst England fans that really is the team performing to the standard that it could be because. We got a lucky draw, and we did get a fortunate draw. We look at performances like Panama 6-0, and it was good at the time. And obviously getting through and the penalty hoodoo, that one's over, which is great. Yeah. But when you come up against Croatia, France, all these teams, tactically we've got to have a better manager, and I'm not sure Southgate's the right man.
Yeah, I'd agree. I often wonder, looking at them, for me, England's biggest problem over the years was often the players played for themselves rather than as a team. There was too many egos. There was and I wonder, is that where he's coming from? Playing, he brought in young players at a very early time, and if they can grow together, which they kind of have done, and I think that's his problem with Grealish as well. Anyone with an ego, I don't think he has time for them, and I think that was an issue when you looked at Lampard. Beckham. There was a lot of players that couldn't play. Gerrard, like that. What a team! But they didn't seem to be able to play together on the big stage. Were the individuals or were they a team?
Yeah. Whereas in Ireland, we're a team. The team ethic. It's always the team is first. You know what I mean? Like whereas you always hear from previous, maybe Rio said it before. When he met up with the English camp, there was always this cliques. All the club players stuck together. There was no kind of general camaraderie amongst the group. Whereas it seems to be different over here in Ireland. It's just one great team spirit, and obviously a team spirit will carry you only so far, but you need to have the talent to marry with it as well. So that's what we're trying to do at the moment. And like Stephen is in this, as I said, this is the sixth match, and please God, the hoodoo of putting the ball in the net will be broken soon, and we'll get some results in the next few games.
Yeah, I do think Southgate has that now, though, more of a team spirit than individuals.
Yeah, I'd say, but I think that, like you say, that does take us so far in the tournament where we've got fixtures that suit us. But in terms of his tactical ability, it's been found wanting, and with that team, with that quality, England should have identified by now a way of playing, and to kind of go from a 4-3-3 then to revert back to this almost 3-4-3. It doesn't make sense. I think that the international teams that do the best are the teams that are really sort of well structured in terms of how they want to play. I remember when Wales went 2016. All right, albeit they had Gareth Bale, which is a massive wild card to have, but they knew how they wanted to play, and they did it well, and that's how you get really far in these tournaments.
Yeah. They play as a club team nearly. They play the same. We every time they meet, their training is the same, and that. Yeah, sometimes maybe managers get ahead of themselves tactically and think that they're this genius that can change things up and what have you. But I do think he has them as a team now, and they're playing for each other, and they're playing. They've got to go into the next year as one of the favourites, if not favourite, to win it.
Yeah, I would say that they get to at least the last four, if not the final, because I think they're developing well. They're developing well. It's a good young team, and like any time I've watched them here in the internationals, you expect them to win. Now you just don't think, here they're playing like the game against Belgium in the Nations League. I expect them to win, even though Belgium have a stellar lineup as well. So I think there will come a time, whether it be at the Euros or even the World Cup, that they won't be far off of them. I feel.
Yeah, you say I'm afraid we might get to a final at some point. I tell you what, mate, my nerves. If we ever get to a final, we're going to be shot. I'm going to be like, no, I've never seen it.
I think I'll be in the grave before we get to one.
Well, I mean, you're feeling sorry for yourself being an England supporter and a West Ham.
I know, I've got it tough, mate. I'm hardened by disappointment. So when it happens, I'm kind of like, I'll never forget when we were in the 2010 World Cup and we lost to Germany 4-1. And this is what I'm saying, lads. When you get to those real tests, and they had like Ozil coming through, Thomas Muller, and we just got battered, and I just literally fell out of love with it, because I thought they weren't playing like in the same way that an Ireland or a Wales or smaller nations will play for that shirt. I was really disillusioned, and that is the one thing Southgate has managed to somehow do: galvanise the fan base and galvanise the team. And at least we've got something to get behind. But like I say, I want to see some kind of tactical management when we have to come up against France, because France, when you look at them, yes, they've got very, very good players, but they've got Pogba playing well in that team. They've got Kante, they've got Griezmann, they've got so many players that he's got spot on. Spain, when they played with their side, I think it's like 2008, 2010, play the same style they did at their club. So I want us to get to that level, but I mean, I'm not sure he's the man long term. If he doesn't do well at this tournament, I think we'll look to the World Cup and maybe say, should we bring someone in who, I wouldn't say this, but I'd love to see a Pochettino, like that type of play, because he's such a huge manager. But I don't think that'll happen.
And is his contract up after the Euros?
I'm not sure, actually. I think he might have. I think it might be after the World Cup, but I don't know whether the FA look at it and say, well, okay, you've got this squad. It takes someone, and sometimes the FA are accused of this, not understanding football well enough. And if you look at that squad, we should be getting to a semi-final. And it's irrespective of whether you play a top team in the quarters, you have to be getting there.
Yeah, it's like the second generation, the second golden generation that we've seen come through now with England, and I do agree. If he doesn't do it now, I definitely think he probably will be gone, because you can't waste these players, that's for sure. And I totally agree with Happy Hammer 82. I think England will win the World Cup.
Well, we will if we keep playing our second team every time we get into a cup competition. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it is like. And it is like, it's mad, like in the club international divide. I see a lot of posts on Twitter like saying, "Oh, an international break, give me club football anytime over an international break." Isn't that a kind of a prevalent thinking in football among supporters now at the moment too, isn't it? you'd rather watch West Ham every week than have a break for international. The support is more towards your club than an international.
Yeah,
game.
I agree. I think it's like that now. Like even with England being better than they have been, because when I finished the watch along on Saturday, I was like, all right, lads, well, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks then. It's so frustrating. I'm like, I just want to see West Ham play, and it's maybe that is because we are playing okay. If we were playing terribly, I might be like, I don't know, I fancy a break. Because when we had that COVID situation when it first came out, I remember thinking, God, I'm quite enjoying this break for a little bit, because the sort of that period, January to March, was horrific for West Ham.
Yeah. But just before that break, I know we're kind of gone off track. But just before that little break, we just come into a small bit of form anyway, and thanks to God, we got over the line in the end. So long may the good results continue. I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about West Ham, lads, obviously, because we are all Hammers. So, I mean, what do you think of this season so far? We've had some really difficult fixtures, and we've picked up a lot of points in fairness to what we thought. And I spoke to Darren after the first game, and I was practically in tears at what I was watching. So, I mean, the fact we are where we're at now shows how far we've come.
It's a success. It's beyond anything any of us could have imagined, for sure. But you just, again, like what we spoke about earlier against Fulham, we didn't play too great, we didn't play well, and we got the win. I know it was a lot of luck, but we don't get luck. West Ham and luck don't really come together too often. And I just think that there's a different, them players, while the fans aren't sure of Moyes, them players are playing for him, and they're playing to the 92nd, 93rd, 94th minute. And I think that's the difference this year. I think there's a belief maybe in them. Maybe they actually believe themselves that they're better than they have been. And that's why the likes of Anderson had to leave, because, I don't think he was buying into the whole team ethic and that, I think it's great, but we need to be beating Sheffield United. And I know that sounds ridiculous, because any other year they could come out from the bottom of the league, haven't scored or a goal probably, or haven't won certainly, and could easily score 5 against us. But I just don't think that this year is not going to happen. I think we're just a different team with different mentality.
But you even noticed the team spirit, how strong it was towards the end of last season. Like, remember Rice's goal against Watford, and everyone ran over to Moyes, and the outpouring of joy with Moyes, and like even Rice said that everyone is working for Moyes to think he's a good man, So I know when he came back, everyone was like, "Oh no, God, here we go, we're doomed."
Tell me about it. That was me.
I think, don't worry, it's the feeling for all us Irish Hammers as well. But like if you had said to us we'd have 11 points after this run of fixtures, like I actually thought going into this game we'd have 3 points, and that was the Newcastle game, or maybe 4 points, pick up another point. But the fact that we've 11 after Fulham is just fantastic. And the table, I know the table, we're only 11th in the table, but it's very congested at the moment. But and we shouldn't be looking at relegation, but we're 8 points clear of the relegation zone, and that's the one thing I always look at first, before then later in the season, hoping we can kick on. And you just like to think you have accumulated maybe 20 plus points coming into January when the FA Cup starts, so we can give that a good go, because for the last few years we haven't really given any sort of concentration on the cups. It's always been a relegation battle. I think only one season since we moved to London Stadium there hasn't been a relegation battle, And,
that's true,
and this year might be that season that we kick on again, So, but it's a surreal kind of feel, isn't it, watching the games with nobody at it, So, like Darren and I, we normally looking at the fixtures, going, "Oh, we'll go to this one." I'm a season ticket holder, and I get I share a season ticket with 5 other lads here from where I live in Midlands in Ireland, and we meet up before the season starts, pick out our games and look forward. We normally go over and you stay the night, have the crack, and even if the game doesn't go your way, you're still away. You're having a good night with fellow Hammers, and you're meeting guys over there as well. That's what it's all about as well too, isn't it? Having the good camaraderie while you're away, and the result is a bonus, because it's Jekyll and Hyde West Ham. You don't know which team.
I was about to say, don't support West Ham for glory, let's be honest. What I mean?
Exactly. But the formation that he has is playing now is he has it set up to a T against the top teams. But he set up again the other day like that, and I was going, are we going to be able to break down fun? We should be going at him. But if Bowen's chance goes in, if Haller's chance goes in early, it's a different game. You could end up winning that 3-4-0,
Yeah.
And you look at the last 20 minutes of that game. We owned the ball. We absolutely dominated the ball. But like they kind of were retreating. And thankfully we got the lucky break in the end. Benrahma was very, very positive when he came on. I thought the last 20 minutes he really influenced the game, you know.
He was very lively, wasn't he? Yeah, I think so. And don't forget, we also hit the woodwork twice as well, you know, during that game as well. So, I mean, it wasn't that we didn't have chances and didn't create them. And, you know, another day, hopefully they'll go in for us. But I definitely thought Benrahma looked very lively, very sharp. Yeah. And it's good.
He was that bit of quality, wasn't he? He was that little bit of quality that we needed in that final third that we lacked. And I thought, listen, I've said this on the stream as well, that I thought Fulham were really well organised. Scott Parker had them set up, and I didn't expect it. I hadn't seen anything from them this season. So, I mean, he was fuming with Luckman for that penalty because in theory, if they come away with the draw from their perspective, you would have said, I can get it a little bit. Games do go like that, but West Ham create chances in this system. That's the difference, isn't it? Like it looks defensive, but that transition from defence to attack is so good that West Ham can score goals, which is why it's so impressive.
Particularly in that first 15 minutes, the ball was going out to Matsubaku constantly, and he was breaking down the left wing, like, you know. But it's just like the midfield there. I was kind of concerned there tonight because I thought the lads Souček and Rice were being outrun. I thought Reid played very well in there for Fulham, and Lookman had a good game as well. So you know, but it's, as Darren said, like, to win dirty and get 3 points, that's not the West Ham way usually. So is our luck about to turn, you know?
Yeah. I think it has. I think even looking at you know, we'd ask any West Ham fan in a poll, had we got a good transfer window, and if, you know, 99% I'm sure would say no. But look at like Soufal coming in there, and he looks like he's been there years. He's just, you know, he's just slotted in there so well. And now Benrahma looks like he could be, you know, I do think that our look has changed because I think Moyes fell on this system and it worked.
Yeah.
And he stuck with it.
This is the thing. This is the one thing that I do say, that this isn't a system that Moyes adopted from when he came in. He's evolved. If you remember when we had Project Restart and we come back for the first 2 games, I remember it really clearly because they were probably the worst games I've seen West Ham play in a long time. Wolves and Spurs. It was long ball. It was use Antonio. All of a sudden, I think Moyes realised, after that Chelsea game, that if West Ham can counter-attack quickly with pace and with players, we can score goals. And in fairness to him, that has evolved in this system. But I think what's been more impressive about it is getting the best out of the players we've got. Creswell at left centre-back, Arthur at left wing-back. It's like new players in the side that we had, but never were performing to that level.
Yeah, and I was even wondering the fact that he went 5 at the back. I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking he's just going defensive now, and it's like don't lose. You know, we're back to don't lose. A draw is a good, a win is a bonus. But they have just been a revelation. I mean, and one player that I would have sold, I'd have paid money to leave, would have been Cresswell last season, and he's been a revelation. He's been brilliant. Soufal's been brilliant. You know, Ogbonna, even Balbuena has come in and done well. You know, and I just love to see. I think it's great then that Bowen and Fornell's now not seeing Benrahma. They know that there's somebody there waiting to come in. Whereas before they looked at Anderson on the bench and probably knew that the chances of him coming in for them was getting slimmer and slimmer by the week. You know.
But I think the next day I think he'd still start same 11 the next day. I think Fornells has enough brownie points in previous games to start anyway, and Bowen's work ethic, it's just like Fornells. He's up and down, and I think he still go with Haller next day, because like, you know, they're Sheffield. You know, you think Sheffield United, you think big physical outfit. You know what I mean? Haller might bash them up if he gets any kind of service, but I wouldn't be, as you said, Corey, I wouldn't be rushing to Antonio, leave him on the bench, maybe bring him on if we need him.
I thought Haller played better, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
in that
he
game.
did. He did.
I think that because when I watched him against Liverpool, it was like playing with 10 men. Like, it genuinely was like playing with, and we still created, we still scored, but there's only so long you can play with 10 men, and it's such an odd game. But I did think Haller's link up was better. I thought in some instances he was putting himself about a bit more. And it was like, I'm not expecting him to score every game, but what I would expect him is to kind of at least hold the ball up for West Ham to get forward. And that's what he should do, particularly until Antonio comes back. And then you can't fault him, really.
Yeah. He's got to put in. He's got to put in a shift, though. I mean, you know, he has to be seen to be putting in some sort of a shift. And against Liverpool, and a few other games he hasn't. Against Fulham, I did think he put himself about a little bit more, and he actually came looking for the ball as well. Like he came towards the midfield a number of times, which rather than standing up there waiting for the ball to come to him. So I wouldn't be against him starting next week, but I would certainly be pushing for him to do something next week, or then I don't know what I'd be looking at with alternatives because. How long do you give him?
Yeah, I know. But who knows? Like he might see Antonio on the bench next week and just suddenly change into this this guy that puts in a real shift. So he has to realize that Antonio is the first choice, and this is his opportunity. This is his opportunity.
Ale isn't that type of player like Antonio is, and this is the problem. We're sitting there saying, how long do we give him? We haven't got a choice if Antonio's still not fit, and that's the issue. That's what I've always said. The squad depth has to be there in order for us to bring on players with different looks and that can stretch. If Moyes wants strikers that can stretch defences, then we need to look in January and get someone in at least on loan because Ale isn't going to do that within this system.
No. And I mean, you can't change the system now. No way can you, because it's working. Regardless of whether he fell on it or worked it out somehow, it's working. But before it started to work, I would have loved to see Hilaire and Antonio in the two up top, and just see what happened.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not gonna happen now, and that's it. But I would have loved to see how they could have played off each other. But I do have more of a feeling that Haller could go in January. And somebody could come in his place.
Yeah, possibly.
I'd say Pierce and Nolan have to be given good credit as well. I'd say Pierce had probably a lot to do with that new formation as well. So I was delighted to see him back at the club.
Yeah, I think the coaching staff have made a big difference because I remember when Moyes first come in, and then he brought Nevin in and Nolan in initially, and it changed the way we worked. And I think this is the thing with the squad. The first team, generally, when everyone's fit, it is a good team. Like there's no real denying it. I think I did a video the other day, and when you look back over the past 10, maybe 20 years, in terms of centre midfielder pairings of Rice and Souček, they have been one of the better pairings. So we are at the level we can be. But again, it's going in January, and this is what I always said. When we get injuries, we're always going to have issues because we can't... That centre midfield, by the way, that's getting massively overlooked in terms of squad depth, because if you put Snodgrass or Noble in there, it isn't the same team.
Forget about it.
No, you're gone. Yeah, that's the problem. We lose Antonio and we lose one of the two boys in the centre, and we're in big trouble.
Yeah,
and like you look at if Agbon is out for a lengthy time, and next game we get an injury to Diop or Balbuena, like who goes centre back?
Craig Dawson. I mean, we can finally see him play, given that he's brought in sort of the end of the window. I haven't seen him at all.
He hasn't even been in the squad. Any squad.
Well, this is the thing I find puzzling, because when Moyes has been asked about the transfers that he would like to bring in, he continues to say centre back. Now, I agree that Fofana's gone to Leicester has been unbelievable. That would have been a great signing. Tarkowski's obviously is a good defender, but you look at him and think that there are other areas that West Ham can strengthen in centre back wise. We are okay. We have just, and if Rice, if he has to, I trust Rice more in a back three than I would in a sort of back two. So there are options there, albeit Rice is a midfielder for me now. But West Ham need to look at centre midfield and striker 100%.
Yeah. Well, definitely striker, because you can't rely on Antonio. We all knew from day one that he was his style of play and all. He's going to pick up them strains and hamstring injuries and what have you. But I wouldn't rule out Benrahma possibly filling in if needed up top. Now I know he might not have the physical presence of but he has the pace that if them boys are running with him and can put him in behind the defence, he has the pace and he seems to have something going for him. So he would be my choice. If Haller doesn't get things going soon, I'd give him a go.
And do you think lads Lanzini has a role to play this season?
I really do, but I just don't know. I mean, I don't know where, because would you put him in instead of Rice or Souček if one of them are injured?
Well, no, this is the thing, isn't it? Because when he come on against Fulham, he played him on the right directly where Bowen would have played, which, listen, Lanzini for me is a 10. And I think at West Ham, particularly since his injury, he cannot play centre midfield. He hasn't got the legs to do it. But, I mean, when you're talking about up front, I've said this before, I think Moyes tried it for about 10 minutes. I think it might have been against City where he played Bowen up front because of the pace. And that I can kind of get behind. I know some people say the lack of physicality, but sometimes in this formation, West Ham don't need to be physical, but we need to stretch defences. So I'd like to see Bowen there, or maybe one of the youth players. I know it could be too early, but certainly I like playing players in their natural positions rather than kind of trying to shoehorn someone in.
Yeah. And Yarmolenko doesn't have the pace up front at all to we might have a bit of physicality about him, but I couldn't see him playing up front.
Well, Yarmolenko's got the problem, isn't he, where he hasn't got that pace, and when you play him on the right, his work rate isn't there either. I know for the Spurs goal when he put off Gareth Bale, I do hear that, but against Manchester City, I thought he was awful. We in this system we cannot have a liability, in terms of those attacking players. They have to defend. So
I thought the winner, the late Arsenal, the winner, he was he didn't track back either. He was kind of caught lacking. For that goal too, so he doesn't have the work rate of a Bowen or a Fornals, but he does offer something. I wouldn't cast him aside just yet,
Yeah, no, I think he's a good impact sub at times. Like if you're bringing on subs, and some change the game, some don't. And I think he and Lanzini. That's the only thing is we have Lanzini and Yarmolenko as probably our first two subs off the bench. Well, maybe not now with Benrahma. Yeah. And it's good to have someone like Benrahma who looks like he could make a difference off the bench. Whereas Lanzini and Yarmolenko, it's nearly like on their day they can do it, but they can also have bad days.
Yeah, and I didn't think that was Souček's, one of Souček's better games of the day. And maybe the goal glassed it over, but I thought he was a bit lost at times. And Rice wasn't at his usual best either, but luckily we got the win in the end anyway.
I thought it was tough for them. I think the way Fulham set up, you had Mitrovic coming into that role, and that's the problem with this formation is that if someone's got a packed midfield, like we saw against Man City, or there's another midfield runner, Rice and Souček can only do so much. Do you know what I mean? So it is tough. But listen, the fact we're even sitting here not worried about relegations, thinking that we're getting somewhere, is progress. Because at one point I thought with relegation candidates, rubber stamp. So
absolutely, and there does look to be at least 2 or 3 teams who are definitely not going to be better than us this year. So that's something at this early stage to say that we're actually starting to you look at the table now and you're actually possibly looking up the top half of the table rather than the bottom half, which is a nice surprise.
But there's smacks of 2015-16 about the season. Like you've got Leicester flying, you've got Southampton flying, you've got Villa flying. Like we're doing well ourselves, So anything is possible. And teams are looking at West Ham now and they're saying, "God, we have a tough game coming up." And we as fans are looking forward to the games now as opposed to going, "Oh no, what time are we on? I don't think I'll watch it. I'll do something else," But now we're going into this Sheffield United game with optimism and hope.
Yeah.
So
I think this season completely is about consistency. Like you look at Tottenham, I don't think Tottenham have set the league alight, but what they do is they get results, and that's why they're in this conversation. You look at Villa though, I think they got beat by Southampton the other day, and then they've come back and beat Arsenal 3-0. So it's West Ham have probably been one of the most consistent teams in the league, probably since the Arsenal game.
Well, apparently we have the second most points since we came back from the first lockdown in March. If you were to add all the points up from March to now, I know that that's hindsight and it means nothing, but it does show a level of consistency going back a lot of games.
Yeah, and you look at our goal difference; it's +4. Like we rarely have a plus goal difference, and like we've conceded very little.
Yeah,
when you consider the games we played, I think. I can't think off the top of my head how many goals we conceded, but like to have a +4 goal difference coming out of that stretch of games is fantastic.
I mean, you look at the Liverpool and Man City games. How many times over the past few years we've seen us get completely battered by them and not be competitive at all. And all of a sudden, we get probably one of our first points against Guardiola, make it really tough for Liverpool as well. It's progress, and like we've touched on earlier, with the table, it's all right looking at West Ham saying they're bottom half. We've not done that well, but I think we've had the toughest fixture list, and we've probably performed better than most teams would.
Definitely.
Like, and coming up to Christmas, we've I think it's only Man U and Chelsea really. Well, Man U are lowest in the table, but like they're the only two kind of that top clubs, I suppose, that we're playing the next run of fixtures up to Christmas.
Yeah,
there's definitely points to be won. Like Jeff, although Villa played against Arsenal against us on MNF,
it's a tough game.
Yeah. Like Ollie Watkins has been a revelation for them since he signed. So he'll take watching that night.
Yeah, but I think we've had 3 leaders in the Premier League in the last 10 days.
Yeah.
And how often does that happen? It's usually Liverpool and City a few points behind, and it's nearly like that all the way through, or vice versa. So as you say, it's just look at Leeds. They were flying, and now they can't buy a win. It's a strange league. It's similar to the year Leicester won it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably more crazy than that, to be fair. I don't think I can remember teams, and I think when we look back at the Wolves win and the Leicester win, look at those teams now flying, and we made, and the Leicester game, I thought we made it look quite, not saying it was easy, but we did a number on them. So it's like, how far can this West Ham team go?
Leicester have won 10 of their last 11. The only one they didn't win was.
They're a fantastic team. They're a fantastic team.
I remember I was sitting here on the couch watching that game, and I was going, "This is West Ham." And we should have won. We could have won by more, really.
Yeah. And he's a good manager, Rodgers. He's proved to be a good manager as well. Hasn't he? Yeah. Definitely. But it's look, the future's bright at the moment. We'll take it.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast, really. When I started this channel, it was doom and gloom, and now all of a sudden we're kind of actually competing. But
I think it's the first time I've been on that we haven't been crying nearly, Corey.
Well, I went on a Leeds channel the other day. It was in a Premier League preview, and they said this is the first time I've seen you actually confident going into a game. I was like, this is what happens. It's completely changed. And even it's changing people's perception on Moyes as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Corey, it's time for you to book that end of season victory parade bus, and we'll be across for that.
Of course. Listen, lads. Hopefully we get back into the stadium sooner rather than later. Because obviously it is hard, and especially when West Ham are winning and performing well. We can't watch them play, which is so frustrating. Knowing us, we'll go back and they'll go back to the normal West Ham.
But do you think
the only worry about getting back into the stadium is the atmosphere can get toxic as well because of the owners and that. And I'm not saying I'd love to see them gone, absolutely, but you'd like to think that it won't feed onto the pitch in some way to the performances, because I'm wondering, is all these unusual, weird results all down to the fact that there is
there's nobody
there's no pressure on you going out in Anfield. I mean, that game could have been anywhere when we played them, and between diving and a bit of bad luck that we had, we could easily went away from a point there. Full house in Anfield. Could be a different, I just wonder, is that how they're all getting the results? Because the big teams don't have the 12th man behind them that they're so used to. You often used to hear them say that, the Cop will suck the ball into the net. It's that powerful. Whereas the Southamptons, the Leicesters, and even the West Hams now are finding that, they're not going into them situations.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. But you're so... Go on, sorry, Corey.
No, I was just saying, they've become such tactical battles now, really. A lot of these games are just pure tactics. They're pure team versus team. And I think what helps West Ham is because Moyes is always going on from the touchline. It's always about instruction. And I think actually him trying to bed in his ideas in this side is helping him getting that little reprieve from not having the fans, or when something isn't working, because we are guilty of it. When suddenly it doesn't start working, everyone's fuming. But I think it gives him a bit of breathing space, and actually probably gives him a little bit of time with the fans, when we eventually do get back in, because we can see something is building. How far it will go, obviously, we're not sure yet.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, good news today about vaccines and what have you, so we might just get there at some stage before the end of the season.
I'd say limited by the end of the season. I'd say there will be some crowds back in, all right, yeah. So we will be back. The Irish Hammers will be back en masse, that's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be great, lads. Listen, thanks for coming on as always. I'm sure we'll get you back on anytime. Look, I hope England win. Obviously, it's going to be an interesting game either way. I almost forgot we previewed the game.
I know. Our little segue that Elon did, as they say. I take a draw Thursday night, and I take a goal from one of our offensive players. I'd be delighted.
Yeah, I would definitely take a draw. Yeah. But if it's going to be a draw, it's going to be 0-0. I don't see.
Yeah,
I don't see too much happening. I'll take a draw any day of the week, definitely. But I have a feeling it could be 2 or 3 England.
I see. I'm the other way. I'm not too worried about goals. I'm just interested in performances and systems, because I want to see some decent stuff. I want to see he's a bit more aware of how we can get the best out of our attacking players, not sitting deep against teams that But I don't think you will, lads. I'm honest. I don't think you'll sit too deep. I think when you get the chance to, you'll try and get forward. And I think if you open up, that's when England might get their goals.
Pick us off, yeah.
Oh, they definitely will. I mean, a previous Ireland team, I could even have more confidence of a Mick McCarthy Ireland team going there, and I'd nearly say to you, probably bore you off the park and probably get that draw. And that's not really, I'm not criticizing them either, because that done as well, and we got places with it. But Stephen Kenny will put the ball on the ground, and he will play, and it'll just be, look, we're going to need 2 or 3 lads to play out their skin in Wembley, raise their game. But there's a few young lads there that, we all know what it's like to dream of turning up in somewhere like that. So it could happen. You never know, but I'm not too confident.
We'll be tuned in anyway, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Of course we will.
Sure.
Yeah. No more pay-per-view, which is really, really nice. Don't have to pay for that either. Listen, lads, pleasure getting you on. Obviously, I'll get you back. That is it for this evening, everybody. Make sure you take care. And until next time, take care.